What non-horror movie is actually really scary? Requiem for a Dream is scary as HL. If you really want your kids to understand why drugs are bad, just show them this movie. Well, don't show this movie to kids. Maybe on their teen years. A lot of frightening scenes. Graphic moments and a sad ending. The movie Kids terrified me as a teenager. But it definitely taught me safe sex was important. Requiem still scares me. Swear to God that I never did hard drugs because of that movie. A movie I only needed to see once. Never want to watch that again. Not really a movie. But I have a pathological fear of the Teletubbies. As a 10-year-old, I watched Spirited Away, and even I really love horror, this movie gives me a strange feeling. But still an absolute masterpiece. Toy Story 3. It gets so dark eventually and the bear just scares me. And Coraline. It should be labeled animation horror. I love both. Also for how dark they are being for kids. I honestly still can't believe Toy Story 3 happened. The scene where they all hold hands thinking they are about to die is absolutely gut-wrenching. When Jessie and Buzz get Woody to give up. Holy BS. Toy Story 3 is easily one of the best Pixar movies ever made because they had the guts to do something like that. The Abyss. Just for the scene where Bud is sinking. Down. Into the blackness. Mulholland Drive is one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen. The Garbage Pail Kids movie. For reference. Link. God, that movie is ugly. Well, that part in Inception where Ellen Page is watching Leonardo and his wife from like an elevator or something and the wife suddenly turns and looks right at her was pretty terrifying. Heathers bothers me because when it came out, it was really far-fetched parody. Now, it's FG uncomfortable because of how realistic it seems. I went to school in a high-achieving town. With a serious teen suicide problem. And a couple of credible bomb threats to the schools. It upset me that everything portrayed in the film was plausible in regards to the experience I had there. Nightcrawler isn't scary in the traditional sense. But it's extremely unsettling. That movie was interesting to me for a couple of reasons. 1. Because it was basically a perfect representation of a functioning sociopath. Gyllenhaal just FG nailed it. And the character was written supremely well to portray those sociopathic tendencies. But 2. Because it suggests that the people that do that freelance blood and gore filming, and they're everywhere in major cities, basically have to be sociopaths. It's a huge fuck you to anybody that holds a camera up over a dying man and sells it to the news. But even more interestingly, it points the finger at all of us and basically says, what the FK is wrong with you people that you watch this ST? You're all a bunch of sick FS. Such a good film. Fantastic performance by Jake Gyllenhaal. He should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that movie. He's one of those actors that if present in the movie very likely to be good. Guy has lots of IMDb 7+ movies. The Brave Little Toaster. Terrifying clown monster traumatized me as a child. I still don't run over the cord of the vacuum because of that one scene. The seizure scene. The workshop dismantling people scene. The junkyard where cars are dying while singing a song about how worthless they and how dying is the best thing that can happen to them. Oh my god, that song is horrifying to go back and listen to as an adult. It is dripping with suicidal depression. I had nightmares about that movie for years as a kid. I never even thought of Gremlins as scary growing up, but when we showed the movie to my wife's younger nieces, they were traumatized for weeks over it. Roald Dahl's The Witches. I was afraid I might get stuck in a painting or turned into a mouse. Also when you see Angelica Houston in the True Witches form for the first time. Requiem for a Dream. When it was playing in theaters. I had read a good review of it and liked Aronofsky's Pi. so the wife and I made a pilgrimage into NYC from the suburbs to catch it at one of the few indie art cinemas where it was playing. Due to a series of unfortunate mishaps, we got there just as it started and the only seats left were in the very front row. If you thought the movie was intense from your seat on the couch, imagine watching it with your neck craned back and the screen occupying your entire field of view. Everyone ends up in the fetal position, including the viewer. The absolute best movie I never ever want to watch again. Francis Coppola's The Conversation, 1974, with Gene Hackman, John Cazale, Frederick Forrest, Cindy Williams, Terry Garr, and Harrison Ford. All of the paranoia we have about the devices we carry in our pockets began to take root in the technology featured in this tense thriller. There's a lot of cool filmmaking going on here, and one of the most upsetting seconds-long toilet scenes ever filmed. The monsters in this movie are us, and the tools we have created. Gravity scared the bejesus out of me. The idea of being untethered in space and just floating away with no way to do anything? FK that. AI. Artificial intelligence. I watched that pretty young and the whole thing was fairly traumatizing. Also, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. FN Scorpions, man. I saw AI in the theaters when it came out. I thought it was going to be a nifty sci-fi flick about robots, flying cars, and ST. I cried like a little BH through 3/4 of that movie. Whiplash. Ever see J.K. Simmons and think, boy, he's pretty intense. He might be really scary if he weren't so funny? Quote, yeah, no one laughs during Whiplash. He's equally terrifying as a neo-Nazi in Oz. Really good series. Not about Somewhere Over the Rainbow. As a percussionist, this one traumatized me. I couldn't even make it through the whole movie without cowering in fear. Still Alice. Does Watership Down count? The 1978 version. It's not categorized as a horror but as a kids' animation adventure, yet it has blood and gore in it. Scared the ST out of me as a kid. Couldn't sleep for days. I still can't watch it. I think the worst part about Watership Down was he wrote it as a bedtime story for his kids and toned it down for the book. I actually read the book in school before I found out there was a children's movie based on it. And the only thing I could think was, who in the HL thought that would be a good idea? Quote, The Wizard of Oz, 1939. Seeing the Green Witch and her flying monkeys scared the ST out of me as a child. Melancholia. The Witches movie is still less unsettling than the book, because he never gets turned back into a boy in the book. Not a movie but The Handmaid's Tale FG scares me to death. Schindler's List. Can't believe such horror actually took place. What's worse is some people don't. I'm in absolute awe that Spielberg directed both Schindler's List and Jurassic Park at the same time. How he was able to change his mindset from making a large-scale big-budget blockbuster to making a very personal, heart-wrenching emotional roller coaster of a film is incredible. Two of the greatest, most groundbreaking films of all time. On complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Both made by the same guy in the same year. Unreal. Yeah. It's said that the shooting of the film was so emotionally tiring that he used to bring Robin Williams with him just so he could lighten the mood in the set. From such dull and gloomy production to the larger-than-life production of Jurassic Park. Also, John Williams provides scores for both of these movies. Absolute legend, both of them. Doctor Who. The double episode with the angels. I used to know a guy who had a huge-scale model of one of them in his garden. If he had guests over, he'd sneak out after dark and push it to the window so when they opened the curtains it was right there staring at you. An American Tale. Some of that stuff FD'd me up as a kid. The Spiderwick Chronicles scared the ST out of me when I was young. It's a PG kids movie, But I swear in some of the scenes the tension and jump scares felt like they were for a horror movie. The nostalgia. Ever read the books? They are fantastic and add more detail to the movie. I highly recommend them. God, that was a terrifying movie. I watched it as a kid and it still scares me now. Not a movie. But Courage the Cowardly Dog was terrifying. The Dark Crystal. No questions. HBO's Chernobyl was hands down the scariest TV series I've ever watched. Radiation is terrifying. It's like they released a demon. Once it's out, you can't put it back in. It glows. It lives for 1,000 years. And any mortals who dare to look directly at it will die. The line, "It's not 3 Röntgen. It's 15,000, was sobering as FK, because you've just seen how gravely concerned everyone was with the prospect of 3 Röntgen. 3. 6. Not bad, not great. It's 15. Oh she. Coraline, it's technically a kid's movie but it's freaky as HL. Agree. I took my then 4-year-old to see it because I thought it was just another animated movie. She still remembers the button eyes years later. I was like 20 when I saw it and the button eyes freak me out to this day lol. Great book. I love Neil Gaiman. When Coraline's parents go missing, she calls the police, who tell her she's imagining things and to go get her mommy from the other room. There's no YB in the book either. So Coraline is doing this all herself. And the fact that the other mother is most likely a fairy. And the total opposite of what most people think fairies are. She follows traditional fairy rules. Scary. Tricky and not friendly. W.Y. Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The scene in Peter Jackson's King Kong when they encounter the villagers gave me nightmares as a kid. Yes. And the scene with the PS slug things pit. That still FS me up today. I'm fully convinced I would have shot myself to spare myself being around them. That scene stuck with me when I watched it as a kid. Cats. Absolute nightmare fuel. Are mini-series allowed? Chernobyl. Because I remember thinking, this feels like a doomsday sci-fi flick, but even scarier because the science is real. A scene from The Elephant Man by David Lynch. When the disfigured man is laying in bed and the carnival guy breaks in through the window and charges people to see his face haunts me. The way they dance around him laughing when he is dealing with so much mental anguish sticks with me. I think we can add Eraserhead to this list as well. Lynch makes some pretty dark, weird movies. In a weird way, I find The Truman Show scary. Why? Were you planning a trip to Fiji, then suddenly a worldwide pandemic happened so you couldn't go? I've attempted 5 different trips in my adult life over 200 miles away from my home and all have ended in failure, including one because of the pandemic. I'm pretty sure I'm in a bubble. What on earth are you talking about? Sir Tiny Skins? You think everyone in the world's in on it? Well, that can't be. Because then, I would have to be in on it. And I would never, ever, lie to you like that. Sir Tiny Skins. Children of Men. And it's only gotten more frightening in light of recent events. Jumanji. Watched it for the first time as an adult and I was seriously uncomfortable for long parts of it. I thought I heard the Jumanji thumping music the other day. Nope. Just my cat doing that gulping sound repeatedly right before he needed to vomit or cough up a hairball on my carpet. I wish it had been the Jumanji thumping. Cat in the Hat. I found E.T. extra terrifying. When all the guys in the hazmat suits are quarantining the house. Scarred me for a long time. When E.T. extended his neck and started screaming. My mom had to carry me out of the theater, I was crying so hard. I was 3. Where he was white and dying. Dear Zachary. 7-year-old me would say. Mars Attacks. HL. I'll still stand by it. Those aliens were GN creepy and the CGI on the people experimented on, aka Dog Body Lady, was terrifying. It came out around Alien Resurrection. I remember seeing it in the cinema and no big deal. Then I watched Mars Attack on Laserdisc, and I had nightmares about it. Their guns turning people in skeletons gave me the creeps. Also, those horses on fire. AKAKAKAKAK. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.